Welcome to Business Outlook, a podcast by the Albuquerque Journal where we focus on 4 revolving themes: real estate, small business, emerging leaders, and technology. If you enjoy our podcasts, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us continue to bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. See the show notes for a discount on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading local news source.
Welcome to Business Outlook, a podcast hosted by the Albuquerque Journal Business Desk. A big thanks, as always, to Central New Mexico Community College for sponsoring the podcast and making this kind of local news possible. I'm Megan Gleason, the assistant business editor here at the Journal. Today, I've got with me Rebecca Stair with the Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department. She's the director of the Energy Conservation and Management Division. We talk about different tax credits the state offers, from solar to geothermal, and get into the clean technology market and the kind of clean tech hub that New Mexico can become.
CNM is truly one college with infinite possibilities in tech and data sciences. CNM offers programs where everyone can learn about software, apps, or how to build websites. You can also choose from AI programs and machine learning, the Internet of Things, and so much more. CNM, one college, infinite possibilities, and a proud sponsor of the Albuquerque Journal's Business Outlook.
Puck, thanks so much for being here.
I'm so delighted to be here, Megan. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, so tell us more about you. Are you from New Mexico?
Well, I've been here 20 years, so in another 14 generations, I can say that I'm from here.
Yeah.
Born and raised in D.C., and I came to New Mexico on purpose.
Oh.
Because it felt right, and delighted to be here.
Yeah, what's kept you here? What do you like about it?
I mean, you live here. I mean, the skies, the stars, the nature, the people, the culture. It's just a fantastic place to live.
Yeah. So tell me about your work at the Energy Conservation and Management Division.
Sure. The governor appointed me to this position a little over a year ago. I started in September 2023, and it's been just a whirlwind train track, fantastic situation ever since. The Energy Conservation and Management Division oversees New Mexico's efforts to basically flip into the renewable future. So anything kind of green energy, you name it, we probably have our fingers on it at some point. So, modernizing the grid, EVs, heat pumps, insulation, it's all things that we touch under our roof. And so we've got right now, our staff is growing really quickly. The number of programs we have is growing really quickly. We have about 30 different programs. And actually, as of today, we have over $700 million under management, some form of grant or tax rebate or loan to help New Mexico flip into a cheaper, cleaner future.
Yeah, it's been, the money channeled down from the federal government, the support with the state government. It just feels like this is the hot topic right now.
It is a hot topic, and it's a great time. So if you're a business, if you're a residence, if you're a utility, now is an amazing time. There's so many opportunities for you. Yeah.
Let's talk about the opportunities. I know there are a lot.
Yes.
Why don't we get into them?
Sure. Here's your deck of choices. Do you want to talk first about, solar panels, EVs, energy efficiency, utilities, geothermal, training?
Solar panels is always a good one to start with.
So it's always, and I will just say, if your listeners take one thing away from this podcast, it will be this website, cleanenergy.nm.gov. And we've created that website because there's so many opportunities, and it's so hard to wade through and know what you're eligible for, or their income requirements, or there's geographic requirements. So everything I say will be on that site, so folks don't have to write this all down. Mm-hmm. So for solar panels, there's basically 3 different ways to get help with solar panels. One is a tax credit that the state offers. So if you're a commercial or residential, you can get up to $6,000, 10% or $6,000 off your solar panels in the form of a tax credit. Again, more information at cleanenergy.nm.gov. There's also another tax credit that the state runs called the Sustainable Buildings Tax Credit, which also can cover solar panels to some extent. And then the third option is a grant program from the feds called Solar for All, which I'm very proud that our team won last year. It's $156 million for low-income solar in New Mexico. That program's not available quite yet. You can imagine it's a big deal to roll out. But if you go to the website, cleanenergy.nm.gov, you can sign up for updates and get more information for when that program becomes available.
Yeah. And I want to talk more about the technology behind solar, because I feel that I'm often hearing concerns from people about it's so expensive, or I don't know if it's advanced enough that I want to jump on it. Why do you think people should use solar?
There's two basic reasons to use solar. One is the fuel is free. So once you install the panels, at that point forward, it's really free electricity at that point forward. The other is that it can give you your own resilience. So depending on how you install the system and the switch gear, and it gets technical very quickly, but there's a world where you can make your own power for your own house or your own business, even if the grid goes down. And if you pair those with batteries, which are also, the tech is advancing very quickly and the costs are coming down, you can what's called island and support yourself whether the sun is shining or not.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like we're almost kind of approaching the sweet spot where the costs are coming down and the technology is where it needs to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The solar panels are much, much cheaper. Batteries are becoming much, much cheaper. And it can be really important, folks, to have their own energy independence as well.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned EVs as well. That's a big one. Yeah, talk more about that.
Yeah, so there's EVs and then there's charging. For EVs, and I'll just broaden it to say clean cars in general to include hybrids, and there's also fuel cell vehicles. There's quite a lot out there. The state began a tax credit. The legislature passed a tax credit almost a year ago, which we rushed and implemented. We didn't rush, but we worked very quickly and implemented that tax credit within a matter of months, which is sort of a record for state government to do things. So there's a state tax credit for clean cars, and the amount varies depending on whether it's an EV or hybrid and whether it's year one of the program or year two or year three. So I just urge your listeners, if they're considering a clean car, think about it sooner rather than later, because every year that they wait, the amount of the tax credit goes down a little bit. And they can find all of that information at cleanenergy.nm.gov. And I hope this is working.
Let's get it into the
right. Yes.
It's not just new cars, right? It's used cars as well, too. Yeah.
Yes, that was really innovative of the legislature, is that they allowed used EVs and used hybrids to be eligible as well. Very smart.
Yeah. It's interesting, this sort of move to make these clean energy options more accessible, because you see all the time that it's not reaching low income communities.
Yeah, the challenge with a lot of clean tech is there's, as you mentioned, this initial upfront cost, but then after that, after you own the thing, the EV or the solar panels, it's very, very cheap. So a lot of these programs are designed to offset or help with that upfront cost, because after that, there's almost no maintenance in some cases, or it's very cheap. I own an EV and I subscribe to P&M's. P&M has a special charging program for EVs. And so, Megan, I fill up my tank for $3.
Wow.
Yeah, it adds up so much. So we're just trying to help New Mexicans get over that initial hump. And then life is really easy on the other side.
Yeah. Any other incentives, programs you
Sure.
want to highlight?
I do want to talk about, since we are energy conservation and management, the sort of unsung hero is energy efficiency, and what you can do with buildings. Our very unsexy friend, insulation, and window caulking and all that can save you so much on your heating and cooling bills. And there's way more that you can do. And so we actually have like 7 different programs to help with buildings, from different tax credits to loans to even upfront at the register rebates for low-income folks to upgrade their appliances or get that sexy insulation.
Yeah.
And you can really save a lot of money on heating and cooling your house, and it's more comfortable, and you have better air quality.
And how does it affect at all, like Adobe buildings in New Mexico? We have very different building styles. Yep. Is it harder to do with Adobe, easier? Does it make a difference?
It's like New Mexico. It's just different. Just different requirements. But Adobe has, I'm going to get technical, Adobe has what we call thermal mass, where it naturally stays about the same temperature year round. So your Adobe-based houses can be much more energy inefficient than traditional, cinder block houses.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And we haven't even brought up how many days of sunshine New Mexico gets, which of course is a big one.
New Mexico. Yeah. So I just think we're going from being a winner to being a winner. So in the fossil fuel economy, we have our huge producer of oil and gas. We're like number 2. But as we turn towards the renewable future, guess what? Our state is also amazingly well positioned to be an energy leader and fuel not just ourselves, but potentially the rest of the country and potentially benefit for that. So depending on how you count, we're either number 1 or number 2 in solar irradiance, it's called. I fight with Arizona about this all the time, but we're higher, so the panels stay cooler. So I think we're number 1 with solar potential. We're in the top 10 for wind potential, and we're in the top 6 for what's called advanced geothermal, where you go way down and find the hot rocks and make steam to make electricity. So we, if we play our card right, can continue to be a real energy player in the future, and New Mexicans can benefit from our abundant natural resources.
Yeah, no, there are some really interesting conversations around becoming a sort of climate tech hub and transferring oil and gas workforce to that when it becomes applicable.
Oh, it's applicable right now.
Okay.
So that's a good segue into geothermal, what I mentioned, advanced geothermal.
I love talking about geothermal.
I love geothermal. So I just caution on terminology. The word geothermal gets used for sort of 2 very different kinds of tech. One is when you put the pipes in maybe 40 or 50 feet into the earth and you use the kind of natural, stable temperature of the earth to heat and cool a building. That's fantastic. We call that ground-coupled heat pumps, just to distinguish in our office. When I say geothermal, I'm really referring to advanced geothermal, where you drill thousands of feet down to the super hot rocks, hot enough to boil water, bring the steam back up to the surface, and use the steam to turn a steam engine or steam turbine, which is a really established technology. That's called advanced geothermal, and you can make electricity, and you can make a lot of electricity. And it's clean, no fossil emissions, so it's what we call clean firm, meaning it's a nice, stable stabilizer to the intermittent power that comes from solar and wind, which are great, but if the wind's not blowing and the sun's not shining, what are you going to do? You could turn to geothermal. And the other great thing about geothermal, in addition to New Mexico and our volcanic history, geologic situation where we're ranked number 6 and we think of hot rocks down there, we also have the workforce because it's drilling. It's the same sort of drilling as what's happening in our diagonal corners of the state. And it also means our small businesses who, the shops that sell the drill bits or the water trucks that service the drill could also just what we call crosswalk over into the geothermal technologies. And it's the same kind of rigs, very similar.
Yeah. I've heard it described as that last 10% between solar and wind and geothermal could get you that last bit.
Yeah, potentially all 3 could take us all the way to 100% clean electricity.
So how do we start utilizing advanced geothermal? I feel like it's still very much in the early stages.
I'm so glad you asked. I would say it's in the medium stages where, again, like you mentioned, all this green tech is like evolving very fast. And there's actually within advanced geothermal, like 4 or 5 slightly different versions of going down and getting the steam. And New Mexico, the legislature, again, has been very thoughtful about this and has passed a number of things in the last session that will help bring the geothermal industry forward in New Mexico. So my program has a grant program for geothermal industry, a loan program, and a tax credit for the electricity that you make with that steam from down below. So we're in the process of setting that up, and my office is in the process of setting up like a geothermal desk within our office to really support the industry. And so far, Megan, it's working. We're getting a lot of interest from a lot of geothermal companies who are poking around the state. And if we continue to support advanced geothermal, I think we will emerge as a state leader.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, the state legislature has been very supportive of these efforts, but we've also got a federal administration coming in that maybe is not so excited. Should we be worried? Are these programs here to stay? Is there any risk?
There's always risk with everything federal. The American people vote how they vote and things can change. However, I'm really proud of the staff at ECAM because we worked really hard last year to take all of our federal programs sort of as far as we could. And to apply for and win as many grants as we could. So we already have in hand close to that, 770 parts of that 770 million that I mentioned at the beginning. So New Mexico is as well positioned as any state can be. And then also zooming out a little bit, in a way, we're sort of selling a great product. Who doesn't love energy efficiency or energy conservation or energy independence for America? So, and what the state can offer the rest of the country is really valuable along those lines.
Yeah. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to bring up before we wrap up here?
Let's
Anything
talk
else
about
to
workforce
highlight?
real
Yes,
quick.
let's do it.
So none of this goes anywhere unless the workers are available. And these green jobs are great jobs. They can be well-paying jobs. In many cases, they're union jobs. And so that's another wing of my office as well, is we've applied for several different grants to set up some workforce training programs. And so if any of your listeners are interested in learning about green jobs, they can go to cleanenergy.nm.gov and learn more about the new jobs that are coming.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. This was fun.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks
Yes.
again, Puck.
You're welcome.